All right, Team Rotary. I know we're dancing here today. Before we dance, I just have a little something to say real quick. I think there was a football game last Sunday. So if I say Suey, you say, there we go. It's not bad for a Buffalo Bills fan, right, Eric Silvers? You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, well, I didn't want to blow everybody's ears off. So back to dancing. So today's song is from Elizabeth Touche. Elizabeth is with Yakima County Superior Court, and this song is Golden by the K-pop Demon Hunters. And I'm here to tell you that I didn't even know what this was. I did know today, but not until last October when my great niece dressed up like one, and then I learned who they are, I guess. Not what they are, who they are. So that's this song. And Elizabeth chose this song because the local high school boys swim teams have had quite a season. Thankfully, they could complete the season in the Lions Pool, and the district finals were on Wednesday. This is one of the swimmers' favorite songs, and Elizabeth chose this song to honor the swimmers and the coaches' grit and perseverance. So thank you, Elizabeth, for that song. Okay. Our greeters today were Bob Price and Rick Fairbrook. Bob is with Price Cold Storage, and Rick is with John L. Scott Real Estate. He's also a co-chair of the music committee this year, and he's a Hall of Famer, being past president in 2022 and 2023. So now, next up to share some inspiration, Mr. Kurt Laberton, who is also a Hall of Famer because he was past president in 2016 and 2017. Kurt.
Thank you very much. Please sit down. So this is a training session because we have Valentine's Day coming up, and we have a lot of Valentines in here. So this is a training session from the past that served me well over the years. And I want you to begin to envision this by thinking of what life was like in the early 60s. We are living at this point in Yakima near St. Paul's, and we have, just after the first year, about this time of year, my mom's mom, my grandmother, had passed away of quite a long illness, and we are about to host in our house the family coming to discuss that event and host her services, etc. So this was a phase of my life where in the 60s I am truly a little boy. I'm a professional little boy. I do little boy stuff all day long, and this involved a lot of on your hands, on your knees, in the bushes, building forts, that kind of thing. And as a result of that, for whatever reason, my mom was especially focused on my elbows, which never quite met her standard. They were always a little more little boyish than she thought was necessary, and kind of grimy. So as she's getting ready in the kitchen for this event, and was very stressed, I could tell. I came in, was trying to make my escape out. She turns around, catches right view of my left elbow, and says, "Kurt Laberton, get those elbows taken care of right now. I do not want them to look like that when your aunt gets here." I begin to go out of the kitchen as my dad comes in. Dad walks in, who was a very kind, wonderful, sweet man, and could tell that he was sort of out of his element and was not really into the elbow thing, but walks up to Mom, having not heard the other conversation, and says, "Gene, is there anything I could do?" And she turns around and says, "Wells," my dad's name also being Wells, "those elbows are driving me crazy. Make sure they sparkle." And Dad said, "Got it." And he left. He walks down the hall, I walk down the hall. I get my elbows taken care of. I get back. I didn't pass muster with a lot of stars, but they were okay for one more time. So I was allowed to escape. As Dad walked in, he gets to the kitchen up near Mom, taps her on the shoulders and said, "Gene," and she turns around. He goes, "How's this?" He was confused. But he was a great husband and a great Valentine. And so this is where the moral of the story of a Valentine this weekend and all days of your relationship with your Valentine come in. You have two choices there. You can either go for clarity, or you just go wash and take care of the elbows. My dad wisely chose the elbows that day. And my mom's response was to give him a kiss on the cheek, I remember, and said, "That's great, sweetie." And then she handed in the Jell-O, which had the fruit in it, and the mayonnaise, and told him to put it on the table, this being the 60s. So if you have a chance to determine which is better, clarity or just go take care of the elbows, this weekend as a Valentine, I'd urge you to consider elbows every time. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you, Kurt. So I'd like to welcome our guests. So if you are a guest with us today, if you could please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you so much for being here today. I am Sherry Bissell, and I am very proud and super honored to be the 107th president of this Rotary Club. It doesn't mean I'm 107 years old, just means that our Rotary Club's 107 years old. And we are the original, we are the OG in Yakima. We are the finest club in America, as Craig Mendenhall would say. I don't know if he's here today. We have something for everyone. We are not religiously affiliated. We are not politically affiliated. Pretty easygoing. We don't have any secret handshakes. We don't have any really serious attendance requirements. We're pretty cool. So if you are interested in being on our team, please talk to one of us Rotarians or grab one of the blue cards on the table, and we will draft you on our team. Okay. So I have a blue badge for Sam McClung. Oh, there he is. Mr. Sam. I got him just in time when he was taking a bite. So Sam is with the Yakima Symphony Orchestra, and he is no longer a rookie red. He is now a blue badger. Nice job, Sam. A little reminder, our second chance social is tonight. It's a little different. It will be a small business night social. It will start at 5, go till about 6:30. And it is at Tavolo, which is located in the Glenwood Square right across from Zesta Kachina. And so we will be doing some wine tasting with some chocolate pairings and having some appetizers. So a little bit different, very fun. So bring a friend, bring your family, bring a coworker, bring your significant other, and come and join us. It should be a lot of fun. And so next up to introduce another new team member, the president-elect of this club, the current board director. He is a co-chair of the Mentorship Retention Committee, Mr. John Cooper, who is with the Yakima Valley Tourism.
Good afternoon, Rotary, and I'm really honored to introduce our newest member of the club, Randy Bonds. Randy attended and graduated from Northwest University in Kirkland with a degree in intercultural studies. Now, if you want to know what that is, you're going to have to talk to him directly because I don't know what that is. But after graduation, he did their IT work at Northwest University for about 12 years. He's married to Noelle. They have 2 children, Georgia, who is attending West Valley at this time, studying nursing, and Cole, who is a senior in engineering at the University of Washington. In his spare time, he likes running. He just told me he did a 4-mile run on the Greenway in 48 minutes. So if any of you want to time him or beat that, come see him. Hiking, he's a big fan of soccer, both playing and coaching the sport, and he's hoping to get over to Seattle this summer for some of the World Cup games. He's active at Stone Church. He's a ministry pastor, and he'll be going on a mission trip to Argentina this summer. And following that, he's going to go visit the Basque region of Spain and France in September. Randy has been working for more than 14 years at the city of Yakima, where he currently supervises their GIS application development and application support. As to his character, and he is a character, his supervisor, John Fannin, who is here today. Where are you, John? Right there? No, he's not here. Oh, did I miss? It's John Carney. John Carney. Where did I find John Fannin? Stated, Randy has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership and a deep commitment to public service. He was the driving force behind innovative initiatives such as the Yakback Community Engagement Tool, key investigative tools for the Yakima Police Department, and the city's transparency portal. Beyond his professional accomplishments, he generously donates his time to community and church. He leads with integrity, intelligence, and a great sense of humor, and I trust him completely. Rotary would be fortunate to have him. Thank you, John. Beyond technology, though, Randy likes hands on projects. So we both have that in mind for our president's projects now and future. So he can participate because we know our club has many opportunities for us to roll up the sleeves and serve our community. I've known Randy for about 6 years through Jane, who was doing the Windows Alive program downtown. He was a designated staff person for the Arts Commission at the time. He helped her with designs of the cards and the website, so he was very helpful in that regard. And I can attest to his outgoing, friendly, he's a funny guy who happens to like colorful summer shirts like I do. His wife often says that Randy's motto is that strangers are just friends he hasn't met yet. President Sherry and fellow Rotarians, please welcome Randy Bonds.
Okay, I have some goodies for you. I'm a little disappointed we didn't wear a colorful shirt. I'll be coordinate next time.
We will this summer.
Call each other. We'll look for it next week, maybe. So here is your red rookie badge. Before long, you will be a blue badge, I'm sure. There's your Team Rotary and your plaque, which I wasn't going to say this, but it's naked, and I apologize for that. It doesn't have his name on it. But it will. It will. There was just an error with the engraving, so it's naked right now, but not for long. And then your infamous Rotary license plate frame, so you have to watch how you drive now. That's what I tell everybody. So welcome to the team. Okay, we have been celebrating Black History. We had a wonderful speaker last week. If you were here, amazing. And we are continuing. So I would like to bring up Eugene Vigil. He will be doing a Black History Month moment. Eugene is with Western Community Insurance, and he became a member last August. Eugene, he was just here. Oh, there he is. Eugene.
Yeah, my name's Eugene. I wrote a little something here, and thank you, Eric, for having me involved in this. So for Black History Month, I didn't want to give a history lesson. I just wanted to share a story, my story. I recently started digging into my genealogy just out of curiosity, and what I found surprised me. On one side, my African ancestry traces back to West Africa, like many, if not most, Black Americans whose roots in this country go back before the United States was even founded. And that history carries a pain, strength, survival, and it's just a part of who I am. On the other side, I recently learned that my Spanish ancestry traces back to the early 1600s to the Montez Vigil family, among the early founding families of New Mexico 400 years ago. And that kind of blew my mind just to realize that both sides of me stretch back so deep into the history of this country and give a story of how it came to be through colonization, through hardship, through destruction, and through rebuilding. And somewhere in that history, more recently, my grandfather, um, which in moving, he actually lost track of who his family was. He was young, his history was lost. So a lot of this I'm learning now, he never got to know. But he did migrate to Yakima, originally from New Mexico, then Colorado, and then Yakima looking for work. When he was young, his father left. He dropped out of school because he could earn more money working than his mother could. He became the breadwinner and carried out responsibility early. He didn't have the luxury of figuring himself out. He just did what he had to do. And now I find myself here too. I started in Bremerton, then Tacoma, Big Harbor, Wenatchee, Tri-Cities, Spokane, Port Orchard, and that's no particular order. I've been all over the place. It feels like I've seen a lot of Washington. I love the diversity and scenery. You get to see everything. For me, I was following opportunity, following my instinct, and sometimes just following the wind. This made me realize that migration isn't just a random thing in my family. It's been a pattern from West Africa to America, forced migration, or from Spain to New Mexico for new opportunity. Movement has been part of me, and what fascinates me most is how genetics and family stories can hold both painful history and incredible resilience at the same time. I'm connected to enslaved Africans, I'm connected to Spanish settlers in the 1600s, and I'm connected to native roots in the southwest of this country. And I don't view this as a contradiction. I don't view it as an opposing force. It's the story of America itself. Black History Month matters to me because it reminds us that our stories are layered. We are all part of something bigger than ourselves. Some of the history is hard, some of it's inspiring, but it all shaped who we are today. And standing here in Yakima, where my grandfather once came to build a life, I realize I'm not just figuring out my future, I'm continuing a story that started centuries ago, and that is humbling, and honestly, it's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Nice job. He told me he was nervous. That's why I teased him about going out the back door, but I don't know why he was nervous because that was amazing. So excellent job to you. Thank you for sharing your story. So important to hear stories. Okay, next up to do some Sergeant at Arms is Mr. Zeb Ruff. He is co-chair of the Community Service Committee, and Zeb is with Pacific Steel and Recycling. Your weapon.
I appreciate it. Thank you, President Sherry. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. Being that, you know, our program today is a panel talking about basically the state of agriculture in the Yakima Valley, I thought it was fitting to put on a little slideshow presentation trivia game that we all get to participate in. So if you have any dollars with you, I know a lot of us don't carry cash these days, but if you have any dollars with you, go ahead and get them out. We're going to play a fun little game here. And if you get the question wrong, you got to pay up. So let's go. All right, so I worked on this presentation. I actually did it with my 13-year-old daughter, Paisley. It was a pretty fun presentation slideshow for us to put together, and we had fun with it. So some of this stuff might be easy to some of you, but a few of the questions were not so easy for me. But let's see how we do. Okay, what fruit is used to make craisins, the popular snack? Is it A, blueberries? Is it B, grapes? C, cranberries? Or D, watermelon? You said D, watermelon. You are obviously wrong, and you owe $1. It is C, cranberries. Hold your dollars high. I mean, if you got it right, don't be shy. You're good. We take donations too. Yeah. All right, next question. Here we go. True or false? Obviously, my daughter thought this one would be fun, right? There are more chickens on the planet than humans. A, true. B, false. C, I don't know. Perfect answer, yes. way to contribute. The answer is A, that is true. Let them make their way around here. There was a lot of I don't knows, so we got plenty of dollars to collect, I'm sure. All right, let's you guys ready to continue on? Are we good, Mike? We good? All right. Okay, when is National Farmers Day? Is it A, April 3rd, B, September 24th, C, August 6th, or D, January 24th? If you said D, January 24th, you are wrong. That's my birthday, so I thought I'd throw that one in there for you. It is B, September 24th. Okay, moving on here. The Kona Coast of Hawaii's Big Island is the only major production area of what crop? Is it A, pistachios, B, cacao, C, pineapples for Dole Whip, D, coffee, or E, marijuana? You said marijuana. I'm sorry, you are wrong. And you probably said, I don't know to the question before. It is D, coffee. Whoa, sorry, went a little fast there. It is D, coffee. D, coffee. All right. I believe this is the last one. Last but not least, here we go. What crop, North America's most widely grown grain, was developed in southern Mexico from a wild grass called teosinte? I think I said that right. Somebody could probably correct me, but teosinte. That's how I see it. Is it A, wheat? Is it B, corn? Is it C, wild rye? D, barley? Or E, tobacco? It is B, corn. Got that wrong? Pay up. All right. I think that's all we got for today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and thanks for having me today.
Wow, we've got Sergeant at Arms people competing for dollars out here, y'all. What is happening? I'm losing control. Nice job, Zeb. That was Zeb's first time doing Sergeant at Arms. Didn't he do well? Nice job. Okay, and so now to introduce our panel of speakers today, I would like to bring up Greg Stewart. And Greg is a Hall of Famer because he's retired. So he's a Hall of Famer. So, Greg.
Zeb, I didn't know there's more chickens in the world than people, so. Well, I'm happy to introduce our program today and talking about the state of agriculture in our valley. I'm reminded of a sign that we had in the agriculture building at the fairgrounds that said, excuse me, when you sit down for dinner, you become a part of agriculture. Today it's lunch. I borrowed that sign from the State Fair of Texas, the director of agriculture for the State Fair of Texas, or for the state of Texas many years ago, and it's a sign that's created a lot of interest. But we're here to talk and listen to our program today to talk about the state of agriculture in our valley. And I think you'll come away maybe surprised, maybe you are aware of what's going on, maybe not. But today with John, I think you're going to learn a lot. So I'm going to introduce the president of the Washington State Tree Fruit Commission or Association, John DeVaney, who then introduced the panel. So John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Greg. If my panelists could come up to the chairs so you can all get situated while I'm introducing you, that would be fantastic. When I'm asked to put together a panel on the state of ag in the Yakima Valley or in the state of Washington, it's challenging because our state is known for the diversity of our ag economy. I've invited some folks to join us today who represent some of the major crops produced in our county. We'll start with Bud Hollingbery. Bud is a fruit grower as well as a hop grower. He has been in the industry for 57 years. He was upfront about that. I'm not age shaming him. And he's a partner in Hollingbery and Sons Hop, a hop brokerage for the past 55 years, and has an extensive knowledge base of the local ag economy. Jack Field is the executive director of the Washington Cattle Feeders Association, as well as being a rancher at the Lazy JF Cattle Company in West Valley. And Lazy, if I'm not mistaken, means the letters are branded sideways. It does not mean anyone in agriculture is lazy, just to be clear. Our third panelist is Sara Higgins. Sara is the executive director of the Washington Wine Growers Association, and she's been with the association for 15 years and became its executive director in March of last year. They have an amazing amount of knowledge about the ag economy, and after we move the podium, we'll get settled in to have a good discussion here. So I mentioned that the official topic of this panel discussion is the state of the ag economy. Now, most of you know that whenever there's a State of the Union address, the president, first thing that he will say is the state of the nation is strong. Unfortunately, I can't really say that right now for a discussion about our ag economy. The state of the ag economy is very troubled. Just yesterday, our state agriculture department and WSU released an ag viability report that they've been working on for a couple of years. And in that report, they concluded that Washington has experienced the lowest profit margins and the highest production cost increases of any state in the nation over the past decade. In 2024, Washington ranked 50th or last in the nation in grower take-home pay, with net farm revenue of negative $288 million. Now, keep in mind, agriculture is about 10 to 13% of our state's GDP. So when the ag economy struggles, this is going to be bad news for everyone in our state. It's particularly an issue here in the Yakima Valley. 23% of all the jobs in our county are tied directly to agriculture. And that's not including all of the other businesses that rely on the dollars brought in by food and ag production to support the industry, transportation, sales and marketing, all sorts of other support functions as well. All of agriculture, all of our economy has been dealing with rapidly increasing production costs. You all know about inflation and how much fun that is when you go to the grocery store and see your prices going up. All of the producers and all of the sectors that we're going to be talking about are experiencing that same rapid cost increase. What you may not understand, and a lot of folks don't, is that even as, for example, in tree fruit, even as the retail price has been going up, the wholesale price has been going down. So you see that price go up and you say, well, at least the producer is getting some of that. Well, they're getting less than they used to. So even as you're paying more, growers are getting less. Just to give you an example of how much that impact has been, Gala apples, our state's largest apple variety. WSU calculated that the current average sales price, producers are producing 25% below their cost of production. That's not a small margin of loss, that's a pretty big loss. And as a result, Yakima County lost 15% of its farms between 2017 and 2022. This is not just saying I'm not making as much money as I want and crying pain. This is people actually folding up, selling the farm for other uses or to other producers. And most alarmingly, I think, is increasingly needing discussion is that agriculture, both farmers and farm workers, have more than twice the suicide rate of the national average, according to the Centers for Disease Control. So this is an extremely stressful economy, ag economy, under even more stress than usual right now. It's pretty grim. We'll try to find some bright spots at the end, I promise. But I had to set the stage that this is not just farmer appreciation. This is an alarm that we are sounding. So my first question for our panel is this just normal volatility in agriculture? Agriculture is known for ups and downs. A lot of industries have ups and downs. Is this amount of stress and struggle normal, or are we seeing something fundamentally different? And I'll start first with Bud, who has some of the most experience.
Well, normal or abnormal, and there's always stress in ag, and like I said, I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've seen good times and bad times, and this moment we're in right now, in the crops I'm associated with, hops and fruit, is probably the worst moment I've seen in my 57 years. However, going back to 59 years ago, It may have been just as bad in fruit, and I don't think there are any fruit people here that can go back that far and confirm it, but my dad had a ranch he was trying to sell for 3 years, and I graduated from college and bought it. It was really a smart thing. And then I got a job shortly after because we were a little weak on rebuilding the ranch. And so that may have been a time as bad as today. The numbers that John was quoting on the amount of money you lose farming makes sense. And the good thing is that I've been through these cycles a number of times, and it's always darkest before dawn, but it's hard to see dawn. I was really happy to see John Hubertsy come in today and tell me I'm still in business. So, you know, it's not all bleak. If we had done this next year, who knows? But it's a tough time. And any commodity you're producing and selling, generally, if there are too many, the price goes down. And you try to move the product too much, or if too much product, it goes down. Too little goes up. And with hops, it's a totally inelastic commodity. It means that if you have too many hops, you can't sell them. With fruit, it should be that if you have too many, you can. And you work your way out of each of those holes differently, depending on kind of the elasticity of the crop, meaning that like hops go to beer, about 99% go to beer. If the breweries have too many hops, you sit on them in your warehouse. With fruit, you could maybe drop the price and sell more apples than oranges. You know, it's a little more elastic. With hops, you can sit on them for 5 years in pellet form, much longer in extract form, and I've yet to find an apple that tastes good after 3 years in CA. But, you know, I'm a grower, so I probably could.
Thanks, Bud. Sara, the wine industry, though it's of major importance in the Yakima Valley, is a younger crop in our state. What is your sense of that trend line?
Yeah, the wine industry really was getting going in the 70s and 80s with commercial production. So in terms of, is this unprecedented, or is this something we've seen before? It is unprecedented, but we do have to acknowledge it's a younger industry. And just to kind of give a sense of that, in 2016, we were crushing 272,000 tons of grapes in the industry. For comparison, last year we crushed 150,000 tons. And yesterday at our annual convention, we heard a preliminary report that will be released, I think in March, that 2025 was 108,000 tons. So we're seeing some significant decline. That number goes back to like, puts us back to like 2005 in terms of size. And again, just one other comparison stat, you know, the industry is interestingly made up of about 90% very small wineries that produce less than 5,000 cases a year. And then we've got a couple of really big guys. San Michelle Wine Estates is our big 800-pound gorilla in the industry. And in 2023, you may remember that they announced the intention over the next 5 years to reduce their grape supply by 40%. That's like 70% of the entire industry going down to 30% of the entire industry. So that is exceedingly significant and absolutely unprecedented.
Thank you. Jack, cattle industry is a little volatile too, but how do you feel that things are right now compared to ups and downs of the past?
I feel a little guilty sitting up here. It's good that that I'm on the end. You can push me over the stairs if you need. Everybody out here in the room is well aware of the livestock industry, the markets, the cattle industry or community here in Yakima County and in the state is the only shining star in all of ag across the country. That comes simply as kind of the, I guess, the outcome of multiple years of nationwide drought, increased ages in producers that have been reducing. We're at a 75-year low. 1951 was the last time we had this few of mother cows in the United States. So when you look at the challenge of, in this case, reduced supply, very strong consumer demand, we're seeing record highs. We're within $2 of the highest cash price on a nationwide index that we've seen ever. So what that means over the last year, the amount of volatility now when the market moves, it can literally tear the head off of anybody's operation. If you're using the futures as your risk management, you're looking at margin calls that over the course of the week, you can be looking at north of $50,000 to $60,000 of margin calls if that's your risk management. The expanded limits going from a $9 move to a $13 per hundredweight move on the futures has created significant problems. But with that, we also see the flip side. When it goes up, the market's been very strong. We're very fortunate in Yakima County. We've got a very diverse cattle feeding from cow-calf, stockers, cattle feeders, dairies, and we have processors here. So we're almost in our own little ecosystem, so to speak. We utilize a lot of byproducts from all of the other commodities throughout the region and across the state. Right now, things look really good, but we've got a lot of things to be concerned about as we look to the future in terms of maintaining demand. But most importantly, when you look at these high prices, the cost of reentry for a cattle feeder to buy a calf right now, you're looking at locking in a $200 a head net loss. Projections look that at the cow-calf level to be very strong on a nationwide basis, maybe $1,000 a head net profit. A cattle feeder looking at about $140 a head profit, and our packers $175 a head loss. So you start to look at that. Segments can only run in the red for so long. Our industry's already seen Tyson Fresh Meats close one of their packing plants in Texas. They look to reduce operations in other areas. And as we start to see that, you see the dynamic and things move around. We're in really good shape in Washington State with 2 large processing plants, but on a nationwide landscape, the reduction in the cow herd with excess processing capacity, the experts are saying we will see more plants close. And what that does is sends more of a shudder through the industry, because you've got to shuffle the cards, and instead of going to your local processing facilities, you may have to put a significant amount of mileage on things.
Thanks. Jack, you touched on one of the issues that we struggle with in agriculture. A lot of folks outside of ag say, well, if you're losing money, just adjust your supply. Calibrate your supply and demand a little bit better. But in the case of a lot of our commodities, they're permanent crops. You'd establish tree fruit at 70,000 plus per acre. You're not going to rip that back out again and lose all that capital investment because of a bad year or two. You hope it will turn around, and it can if you get bad weather in other places. Let's talk a little bit about how we calibrate supply and demand, and what issues are affecting demand right now. Bud, you talked a little bit about the inelastic demand for hops. And do you want to discuss both hops and tree fruit?
I'll go hops first. Tree fruit, I don't.
Keep it close to your mouth. Keep it close to your mouth. So.
Okay, there we go. Demand, supply. I look back, thought about history on hops. Prohibition, was a major impact on hop demand, and we came through that. World War II, when we destroyed, when the German competitor, our biggest competitor in hop production, was totally destroyed, we came through that. Craft beer changed the hop industry. Went from 1.16 pounds per barrel at the major breweries, roughly, to 1.6 pounds per barrel with craft beer. And I think there are 20 to 30,000 or 20 to 30 million barrels. That did a major impact on hop. Acreage went from say 40,000 to 60,000 acres response to demand. And now that the craft beer industry and alt beer industry is weakening, it probably should have only gone to 50,000 acres. We're down to, in 4 or 5 years, 41,600 acres. And so the hop industry responds to demand really well by really painfully, but there's an obvious one-to-one response. The apple industry, I mean, there are a lot of Apple people. Bob Price could talk to that better than I could, but it's harder. But one other thing with hops, if you have to put in more hops, you can do it at much less than 70,000 an acre. If you had pulled out a yard, you still have materials. You can maybe put it back in for 5,000 to 10,000 an acre, and you can have a full crop, hopefully in the first year, at least in the state of Washington. And it's Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. It takes an extra year maybe to get the full crop in Oregon, which is one of the reasons Yakima is 75% of the U.S. hop crop. Apples, I'm waiting to see how that plays out. When I drive home, it's about 7 miles on the other side of the gap. I go by orchards on fire, and so it's neighbors are taking out orchards. I'm taking out orchards, and then you see the big money putting in orchards, and big money is Sixth Street Investment, UBS, Goldman Sachs, John Hancock, and a friend of mine from college. I happened to look, I knew she was related to State Farm Insurance in some way, so I Googled it the other day, and her granddad and dad and brother were all consecutive CEOs of State Farm. So I looked up their mutual fund, and it was about $100 billion. And that's who we're competing with. And so it's going to be a little different going through this period of time we're in, because you don't know, it's hard to know what it's going to look like. And supply and demand, all these farms coming out in my neighborhood, and entities that don't need money from farming, putting them back in. So don't want to be too negative. There's got to be a positive in there someplace, but I don't see it yet.
Thanks. Sara, you gave some startling figures about reduction in wine acreage. Have we reached the bottom and we might see a recalibration of supply and demand there?
So that's the magic question that we all wish we had the crystal ball for. And again, at our convention this week, we were talking a little bit about that, and I think that maybe that's one of the rays of hope that people are starting to identify, is that we are near the bottom, but it's going to take some time to recover from that. In terms of oversupply and under demand, first of all, that's not unique to Washington State. That's seen across the United States and seen globally. And we've got it, for years we've had a situation where, as the demand has gone down and we've continued to grow our grapes, we're putting previous years' vintages in tanks and barrels, and it's sitting there unsold. Meanwhile, consumer demand keeps declining in terms of their interest in what we have to offer, whether it's related to health preferences, whether it's related to the anti-alcohol movement. A lot of it has to do with competing beverages, ready-to-drink beverages, our friends in beer, our friends in spirits. There's a lot of options out there that are all contributing to a change in what that looks like. But I guess I would just add one other thing that's out there. This has been an opportunity for us to really hone in on and focus on an understanding of what we do well, and go after that. So Washington State for years has produced and competed in a lot of different price points when it comes to wine. What we're finding is our sweet spot is the $15 to $30 range. If we can focus there, there's an opportunity there.
Great, thank you. So Jack, we saw that there's twice as many chickens as people on this planet, and I keep getting asked if we can add protein to apples. So being in the protein business, are you seeing demand continue to increase for beef?
Well, we've seen some great things in here within the last couple of weeks with USDA, and anybody in animal agriculture is doing a backflip with the release of the new USDA dietary guidelines. We've seen that inverted, and we've seen animal proteins placed where we in production agriculture on the livestock side of things think they deserve and should be. So we've got a really strong showing of support, whether it's beef, poultry, dairy, to see the importance and the value that those proteins are being placed in each diet. The challenge that we look at from the livestock industry, and when we look at cattle, we're at that 75-year low. We have to also realize in 1951, the average cow was going to produce, her calf was going to have a net of 271 pounds of product, meat. Today, that cow is producing 974 pounds. We've increased the carcass size, been able to increase the health, the quality, keep more calves from birth alive to harvest. We're producing more pounds of beef per animal every day. So we're able to hopefully come closer to meeting the needs of the consumer, because the challenge is the calves that I was tagging at home today aren't going to be on your plate for another 24 to 27 months. So there's a long lag if you think about things, and people say, well, just grow the herd. Well, if I decide to grow the herd, I've got a 9-month gestation. We've got to have that calf alive, and then you're looking at somewhere between probably 12 to 15 months before that animal's large enough to be processed. So there's a lot of steps that go into place. And then most importantly, from everybody that's looking up here, I want to say thank you if you go to the meat case and pick up a steak. You're making a significant investment by doing that. We just saw a slide that showed the average American spends 23 minutes working for a beef serving. I mean, that's gone up. We continue to see that go up as we see the prices go up. So from an industry, we've tried to focus, just as everybody in ag has, on creating the highest quality product to hopefully drive that demand and a return customer.
Wine and beer tend to go good with a good steak.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then apple pie at the end. So we talked a little bit about those costs, and the Director Sanderson at Department of Agriculture's report just came out. A lot of those costs are government policy driven. And Jack, you talked about a government policy that's actually helping those changes in dietary guidelines. Can you highlight a couple public policy issues that are really causing your sector the most trouble? Jack, why don't we start with you and move back?
So probably the biggest hurdle that the cattle feeding segment had seen here a couple of years ago, just like everybody else in agriculture, was the implementation of overtime. And that hit a lot of our feeders, and many right here in the Yakima County, hard, because obviously we weren't just paying an hourly wage. Many times those individuals are receiving a vehicle, housing, medical benefits, other things on the side, which we couldn't include in the overall discussion of a compensation package. I think with that being said, now there's a very clear understanding. Cattle feeders have effectively realized that at a bare minimum, you're going to have 10 to 15 hours of overtime on every single one of your employees. There's no way to find enough people that are skilled to, you don't just drop somebody. I'm not going to pick someone up across the street at the 7-Eleven and say, do you want to go drive a $500,000 Laird feed truck tomorrow morning? So like many of us in ag, we find ourselves that the last thing we want to do is hurt or hold our employees back. But at the end of the day, there's only so much available to pay the employees. And I know some folks have reduced labor, but I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And looking at some of the other bills that we see in the legislature right now that could have some pretty significant impacts on individuals and entities.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely overtime is an issue for any labor-intensive sector. Sara, what about you? You talked about some of the anti-alcohol policies.
Well, and first of all, I think that I would comment that one of the challenges that we're seeing, and I don't think this is a particularly unusual observation, but one of the challenges we're seeing in whether it's state government or federal is that we have policymakers making decisions without a full understanding of the implications of their decisions to their constituents and to agriculture in particular. You know, they may have the best interests of the individuals in mind, but in terms of how that plays out and what that actually looks like in practice, so frequently isn't ending up, I think, maybe as they intended. And there's a disconnect there that we've acknowledged, I think, across agriculture that needs to be addressed. Specifically, you know, aside from the overtime issue, there's a number of issues, but one of them for the alcohol industry right now in the state of Washington is a bill that's out there that is looking to decrease the blood alcohol content level. It's the impaired driving bill. And while, again, I think it's a perfect example of on the surface, yes, you know, of course we want to have safe drivers out there on the road, and, you know, we want to be health conscious, all of that, absolutely. But when we start to take a look at the details of that, first of all, how do you enforce something like that? We already know that the current level in terms of what's going to be tested at the lab is backlog. So how now are we going to do even more? When we actually take a look at whether that made a difference when it was implemented in Utah, it didn't. The challenges are actually above the current level already, so, you know, by far. So, you know, in theory, yes, maybe, but in practice, in reality, there's a huge disconnect that we've got to overcome. And meanwhile, it just continues to erode away and damage an industry that's, you know, trying to be responsible, take care of its people, be mindful of what is out there for its consumers, because we need all of them tomorrow.
As a farmer, when you say government, you know, it's not a really warm, fuzzy feeling. You know, it's a farmer about a mile from a hop farm in Wilder, Idaho, in October. There's a racetrack. I don't know what they're betting on, but they're betting, and there are a number of Hispanic people there. And all of a sudden, there are helicopters in the air, black vehicles on the ground, the sheriff coming in, and all Hispanic people. They detained 100 and have shipped out 75 of them. That's right next to a hop farm in one of the other hop growing areas. That's a problem. That's a problem with, and you've all read about it, heard about it. That's the government at work. The hop industry exports about half the crop, 14 million pounds, I think, go to European countries, 4 million go to Canada. With that kind of export on an inelastic crop, I mean, what could go wrong? You know, maybe a retaliatory tariff at some point in time. There are just so many things that I wasn't aware of when what they weren't there when I started 50 some years ago, and it's just progressively worse. The office, I never thought I really had an office for my ranch, but at 300 or 400 acres, it's just dawning on me that the hop office has been my ranch office, and without those people to fill out the forms, whether it's getting your H2A housing ready, the wells tested, the warehouses, the water sources tested. It's a big part of farming and expensive. It just adds, in addition to the H2A prevailing wages, it adds to overseeing all this. You need people that you didn't need before. Looking forward on government influence on ag, it's just one of those obstacles we have to deal with.
You mentioned trade, Sarah. I know that wine has had some serious trade challenges, particularly as a highly visible U.S. branded product. Do you want to mention any of those?
So Canada is our #1 export country, and earlier in 2025, with the tariff wars, as it were, all of our product was taken off of Canadian shelves. Our #1 export, and we lost it all. We gained it back, I think, in a couple of areas, but still, there's a nationalism going on right now in Canada that is very proud of the product that they produce and not very interested in our product right now. That was significantly detrimental to our trade and their #1 export. But interestingly, another side of that has been there was also in 2024, there was a significant freeze. Actually, it was the second time there was a freeze in BC where they lost a significant amount of their grape crop that year and also some of their grapevines. A program was put in place, a replacement program where they could utilize grapes grown elsewhere, Washington State, for example, without penalty according to their regulatory environment in BC. That was a small win for us in 2024. It was extended in 2025, but under the regulatory environment, I think it's questionable whether it was actually extended with really any intended benefit. So we're kind of having a hard time right now in that environment.
Thanks. Jack, anything to report on the trade front for cattle?
Well, on the trade front, we've got a couple interesting dynamics. One being a very significant animal health intervention that USDA's put along the southern border that has closed the Mexican border to import of feeder cattle. That doesn't necessarily impact us directly here in Washington State or in Yakima County, but when you eliminate that flow of cattle, there are feed yards in Texas, in the Panhandle, that are empty. They're on the verge of deciding what they're going to do. Again, looking back to running a feedlot is just like a hotel. It's heads on beds, it's cattle at the bunk. You can only afford to run it at 30 or 40% capacity for so long with your fixed costs. That also is one of the drivers why we're seeing such a high price for feeder cattle right here in Washington State, in Yakima, and across the country. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. We're also seeing the impacts and some of the tit for tat on trade when we look at exports. China was the apple in everybody's eye. They've said no to U.S. beef. U.S. beef ends up in China through the back door, through Vietnam, Taiwan, but it's essential to the cattle industry that we maintain viable exports, because the drop credit creates somewhere between $150 to as high as almost $300 in increased value on every animal. When you look at that in terms of the products that we don't consume or utilize right here, tripe, tongue, liver, heart, the hides. We've got a lot of things that have value that we need to make sure we can continue to get to our trading partners around the country, and around the globe.
Thank you. So I don't want to sound too grim. So let's remind everyone that, farming is the triumph of optimism over experience. So let's close out with some good news or some reason for optimism. What's going on in your sectors that shows that maybe there is some hope? Bud, do you want to start? Maybe you don't.
I think I prepared for that, but I can't remember what I wrote. We've been through good times and bad times before. I hate to think that that's the only hope. I got to get this one comment in, though. It was about that raid in Idaho. And it was a year ago yesterday that Pope Francis sent a letter to the American bishops. And in it, there's a quote that which is based on force, built on force, and not on the truth about the equal dignity of every human being, begins badly and ends badly. And that's been kind of a guiding thing for me over the last year. You can evaluate everything as whether it's based on force or the equal dignity. And to me, that's really a strong concept. And the future, if it's based on the equal dignity, you're dealing with the truth about the equal dignity of every human being. And much as our forefathers said 250 years ago, we're all created equal with unalienable rights, there's a good future. And so I'm basically an optimist, but it's not based on what I'm growing or selling right now.
Thank you. Sarah, any bright spots here?
Just really quick. First of all, I don't think I've ever met anyone more optimistic than a farmer. It's amazing. It's amazing, and it provides me with energy and optimism as well. I mentioned the price point earlier. You know, the wine industry in Washington State, we can focus on what we do better than anyone else. That's that $15 to $30 range. Let's focus there. The oversupply that we're experiencing, that frankly is an opportunity to rip out diseased blocks. So let's do that. Maybe to rip out some blocks of varieties that are not currently selling well. And maybe to plant. We have seen, there's data that just came out that said 40% of Washington's wineries are actually growing by shipment. So there is a lot out there to be hopeful about. If we pay attention to what the demographics are interested in and we focus in on some areas where maybe the wine industry doesn't have to be as snooty as it once was, and it can loosen up a little bit in that regard, we have some opportunities to meet the consumer where they are. So there's lots to be hopeful for.
Thank you. Jack.
Well, I know at least on the cattle side of things, we're extremely bullish looking into the future. And the benefit and the beauty of being here in Yakima County is that we are in one of the most diverse ag counties in the country, if not on the planet, when you look at what we can grow. If it's on your table, there's somebody here locally that can put it there for you. I mean, we've got such a diverse opportunity here. Obviously, we want to see people enjoy and eat beef, but we're so fortunate and blessed to be able to do what we do here and to represent all segments. When you look at it, if we can start to see ag kind of pick ourselves up by the bootstraps, have some good times, it rolls throughout the community, because there isn't a farmer out there that says, oh, we just made $1 million, let's go bury it in the backyard. They're buying new pickups, we're reinvesting and rolling those dollars through up and down Main Street. So if we can start to see ag see a little glimmer of hope, all you have to do is give us a little glimmer of hope and we will spend away.
Please join me in thanking our panel for their amazing work. Thank you.
Anybody has questions? Yeah, we'll do it. Thank you again to all of you for being here. We appreciate it. I'm sorry we have to cut it short. I'm sure you have questions. Can you all stay for a little bit to answer any questions? Maybe they'll just be down here. So thank you all again for being here. This is very important. Whenever I move, things fall. Okay. Our next couple of meetings, next week we will dive into history a bit with Blaine Tamaki. Blaine will be talking about the Day of Remembrance. That day is actually observed annually on February 19th, which is next week when he'll be talking about it, next Thursday, so it's perfect. The week after that, on the 26th, our very own Megan Murphy will be sharing her World Marathon Challenge. From what I understand, that is 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents. Amazing. So she'll be talking about that. So bring your coworkers, your family, your friends. We have something for everyone here in this club. Don't forget that. So share our programs with your circles. Okay, we're gonna really quick do our heart of our club. Is that right? Close enough. No flags. No flags. We're gonna do our heart of our club draw. So if you have your ticket, get it out, please. Margaret is going to stand up here in the middle with the deck of cards. If we draw your ticket, you will draw a card from the deck. And if you draw the Joker, I believe, if you draw the Joker, then half of the pot is yours and the other half goes to Rotary Charities. So The winning ticket is 020409. Terry Bleasner. Yeah. So Terry Bleasner was the winner of the Super Bowl board last week. We just gave him money. I'm not sure what you're doing. No joker. Okay. Okay. So Terry Bleasner won the halftime board, and Scott Wagner won the final score board. So that's what happened there. Okay. I always end our Rotary meetings with what I call my play of the day. Today is the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. So I had to talk about love, just like Kurt had to talk about love because Valentine's Day is on Saturday. But this is obviously from Helen Keller, a deafblind woman that had to learn to communicate through touch. And our reminder, my reminder, and now I'm giving it to you all as a reminder, is that this quote is that love and joy and what you can feel are way more significant than material or visible possessions. So just a little something to leave you with and for you to take with you today going into the weekend. Welcome to the team, Randy. Welcome to the team. Next week, flashy shirt, please. There is a committee meeting afterwards, Ways and Means with Margaret Filkins and John Ball, right there in the middle. And thank you all for choosing Team Rotary today and for being in the game. And with that, this game's over.